Welcome back to episode 26 of Chambers Chatter. I'm Laura Chambers-Babelis.
And I'm Shay Chambers-Helms. Today we're introducing Walter Lubkin to the show, a longtime Beaufortonian with deep roots.
Thank you to this month's sponsors, Chambers Helms Group and Soiree Social Media.
Today we are thrilled to introduce Walter Lubkin to the show. Welcome, Walter. How are you?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Well, I've heard a lot of people also know you as Spanky. How did you get the name Spanky?
When I was about 6 years old, my mother took me down to Lips's department store to get some new shoes. And my middle name is Franklin, and my mother called me Frankie. And anyhow, while we were sitting there, and Henry Benowitz was the son-in-law, Lips's, was fitting me with shoes. And she said, well, stand up, see how they feel. But she said, Frankie, Frankie, stand up. And we had two of my playmates there with us. And Henry Rabinowitz said, well, that rhymes with Spanky, the new comedy,
Oh, yeah.
Having two playmates there, I was Spanky.
Well, Billy Kaiserling sent me your number, and you're in his phone as Spanky.
Right.
When he sent your contact over.
Articles about you also have Spanky in there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they're still calling that 10 years from now, and I can answer them.
Absolutely. So tell us, so you're born, raised in Beaufort. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Beaufort.
Beaufort, when I was, of course, a lot smaller. I think I saw where, like in 1940, the population of the city of Beaufort was like 2,040.
Oh, wow.
It was small enough that you either recognized or knew anybody you ran into. Things were a lot different as being a child, I think, then versus now, because we didn't have TV, we didn't have video games, and we didn't have air conditioning.
That is so mind-blowing to me.
Dogs were outside pets. They were not inside pets, because this was back before we had flea collars and ways to keep dogs from getting fleas, and nobody wanted to get fleas in the house.
Right.
Beaufort was either had sand streets or crushed oyster shells most places.
Sand Street, interesting.
The road in front of the National Cemetery was crushed oyster shell.
Wow.
Wow. Bay Street was part brick and part paved. Reboat Road and Bay Street, from there on to Port Royal was a one-lane.
Wow.
I think you call it a two-lane road, crushed oyster shell.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's how things have some of the things have changed. I watched them put in the first streetlight in Beaufort.
Where was that?
And most people would not be able to tell you where. They would guess by the boundary and something. But it was at the corner of Charles and Bay.
Random. Huh.
And the reason for that was that they had a new A&P there, where everybody went to buy groceries. So there's a lot of traffic in and around that corner. So.
And what was the store called?
A&P.
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 And A&P had moved from, it was on the main Bay Street thing, but it was a lot smaller. But anyhow, that's where the first street light. Matter of fact, that's where I had my first accident.
Charles and Carteret.
At the stoplight.
Oh my gosh.
A few years after that, I got my driver's license, which back then you could get it at 14.
Which is so crazy.
Fiddling with my radio and looked up and I ran in the back of a car in front of me. Not hard, but I was just
sure.
alone. But it happened to be Julian Levin. Oh, no. So I said, yeah, but G and I also noticed that back then before they had seat belts, parents would put their arm out if they were stopping quick or something. But anyhow, he didn't have any children in the car, but he automatically
Put his hand up.
put his hand up. And he said, well, my wife's been after me for a new car, so.
So what happened first? Did you get air conditioning or your license first?
I got a license first.
God, that is wild.
It's just the bugs here too. I cannot imagine living here without air conditioning and bugs.
You had to have screens to keep the bugs out, but all you had was either fans or attic fans.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember my mother getting up in the middle of the night. I woke up one night and I was soaking wet, my pajamas and all, from sweating.
Mm.
And she got up and changed the sheets on my bed in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I believe it though. Goodness.
Yeah.
So you were heavily involved in exporting seafood, correct?
My father went to work for Blue Channel the year I was born.
Okay.
And he was the first employee, matter of fact, of Blue Channel Corp. In 1943, 42, Mr. Harris, which owned Blue Channel, bought a plant in Belhaven, North Carolina. So for 3 years, we moved up there. I went to the first grade there and through the third. And then we came back to Beaufort. My father wanted to open a seafood business himself, so a few years later, he started in 1950 to pick crabs and shuck oysters. And that would give you an example of how much land was worth back then. And he bought an acre and a half of land with 500 feet on deep water for $500
Oh my God.
on St. Helena Island. I tell newcomers coming in, I grew up here in Beaufort. When I was born, it was the end of the Depression, Great Depression. And I tell them that even the rich people were poor. So I went to Clemson, of course, graduated from there. Came back and went into the family business, and by 1962, we were the third largest employer in the county.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's how
impressive.
small Beaufort was.
Yeah. Did y'all sell internationally?
To finish the story, we didn't until I closed that business and I went into the import business because it got after 50 years of doing that. Of course, we added other seafood items and the company grew a lot. And but our principal products was by now was pasteurized crab meat, fresh and pasteurized, but mostly pasteurized. And they started importing crab meat out of Indonesia and Thailand and China, and we couldn't compete with them on the marketplace, so we had to close that business, and I started importing.
Okay.
Fresh and pasteurized, fresh out of Venezuela and Mexico, and pasteurized out of Indonesia and Thailand and China.
Wow.
We grew it into a pretty good size.
I want to talk about kind of some of the unique and interesting things of Beaufort that you know that maybe many people don't know.
Unique.
I heard something about your parents did a honeymoon at the hotel out at Bay Point.
My father was an avid drum fisherman back in those days, and when I was old enough, I went out with, and his favorite drop was right off of Bay Point. Not in the ocean, but, where you looking at Hilton Head.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big, pieces of a big dock left there and he said, yeah, it used to be a hotel there.
That's crazy.
He said that dock, which was right in Port Royal Sound, and then he said there was another dock behind the hotel for smaller boats, where it didn't take the abuse of the sound when it gets rough. But the dock was there for the ferry boat that brought people in. He didn't tell me that they had honeymooned there, but when I got home, I was mentioning to my mother, and she said, yeah, we honeymooned there.
That is so...
How big was it?
Do you know?
She 2-story was what I heard, and it was just a board.
Okay, like a bed and breakfast type?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy.
That is, yeah, I can't imagine.
But evidently, the 1940 hurricane probably is what wiped it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I never heard anybody talk about that.
Never.
I've never heard of a hotel being out there.
I reckon I was one of the last ones standing that knew about that. But
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can find any information on it.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
I know.
Any other interesting things that have changed in Beaufort over your years?
I grew up right behind the Beaufort High School on Prince Street.
Mm-hmm.
I was born on the point, and a year and a half later, we were living on Albergardie Creek because my father was an avid fisherman and had grown up in the river as well as he had 4 brothers and a sister. But, living in Beaufort, everybody spent time in the river. That was the entertainment.
Of course.
In Beaufort. And going down the river was a big thing. I remember the first time I went to Pritchards was with my father, and I was a young tyke. I'm 7, 8 years old, I reckon. But we went by Mom Miller's. I don't know if y'all familiar with that.
No.
Where is that?
My uncle, Buddy Lubkin, and Mr. Zoo Von Horton, and my daddy, and there was several other guys, and I don't remember who they were. But anyway, I went by to get groceries there, and I went inside with them. And I was impressed that they bought $3.50-something of food, and the rest of the bill was for beer. Mom Miller's sold burger beer, which is in small glass bottles about that high.
Oh my gosh.
And they bought a case per man per day.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
We were going down on a Friday evening and coming back Sunday. Finish one of those beers and throw it in the woods. It would hit another one.
Oh my gosh.
I went there before there was any wooden structure.
Mm-hmm.
They had we went there and they had a big old box, 10-line box, buried in the sand with a waterproof top on it. And they would cover that with sand so nobody knew where it was. But then when they did that to keep, but they put the camping gear, like pots and pans.
Oh my gosh.
And blankets and all that. They stored in that big box.
Wow, and y'all would just bring tents out or just sleep under the stars?
When it came time to go to bed, they said, go find a sand dune leaning in the right.
There's probably little to no sleep happening.
and they gave you a blanket. And I remember that night of the mosquitoes were.
Ooh, I can't imagine.
And I kind of figured out over time that maybe all that beer was to get so numb to You wouldn't feel the mosquitoes eating you alive.
Oh gosh.
But I remember trying to hide in that blanket and over your head and everything just to get away from the mosquitoes.
Oh.
And then every night you kept going, bzz, and it was inside. You know?
Oh.
So you have to get out and shake your blanket out, try again. But I didn't get much sleep that night.
I bet not.
No.
The second night was the same. And then when they went down to the river, they were planning on eating off the land. You know, they would go get catch some fish or oysters or you name it. But one night they didn't have any luck fishing, so they got some of the bigger boys like Sonny and Skeet Von Harton killed the raccoons that we had.
Oh gosh, I ate raccoon.
We had coon,
Oh my
coon
God.
stew.
Oh, gross. Y'all had a coon dinner. Coon stew on top of that. Oh.
And then one night we had a mullet stew, and they would knock the scales off and gut it, and throw the rest of the fish in the head and all in the stew.
So y'all wouldn't bring food with you? You would just hunt?
They bought some bread and peanut butter and jelly for us boys, you know. And I imagine they got one too every now and then. But that was the only. I think they did take some, you know, bought some lard, cooking stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But I said it was mostly eating off what you could get hold of once you got over there.
That is wild.
That
So
really
this is
wild.
Pritchard's way back before there were any structures
No
or anything.
structure.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
They had a big tent that they kept in that box. It was a 3-sided deal where they would put, you know, it could cook out of the weather.
Is there any structures left in Pritchards, or have
Yes,
they all? There is. Okay. Are those privately owned? The structures out there?
No, all of them were there at the permission of the owners at the time.
Okay. Okay.
They just had, what is it, the Jelly Fest, or what did they call it? They just had this past weekend.
My Uncle Buddy Lubkin and Zuval and Harton were closer than brothers, okay? And you didn't see one when it wasn't work time without the other one being around. So they started it, but it wasn't long before they had a big crowd going down there every weekend. I don't think my father didn't go very often. I think he had. Well, when he started the business, I was 14 years old, but he was working, you know, long, hard hours. I'm talking about long, hard hours, and didn't have any time to do anything except on Sunday. And, you know, he had to go to church. So, but during drumfish season, you wouldn't catch him at the church. He was out there trying to catch the drumfish. So were a lot of other people. I've been out there with him at times. There'd be 30 or 40 boats out there. And that's when Beaufort was small.
Yeah. It's a lot. Jeez.
You know, everybody's got boats now, but that would probably have been half the boats in Beaufort.
Yeah. Truly.
But a lot of interesting things when we came back to Beaufort from Belhaven. He was running that plant over there and came back, and Blue Channel had 5 big run boats, they call them, that were 40, 50 feet, 60 feet long, that they would go around and pick up crabs from the crabbers. And the one that Daddy had was he would go over to Calibogue Sound and pick up the crabs that the crabbers caught off of Hilton Head in Defusky. And this was all before there were any bridges or outboard motors hadn't started. Matter of fact, that first trip I took down to Pritchard, what we did, this was before outboard motors. Mr. Zoo and Uncle Buddy had built a boat and put a shaft in it, and they had a Briggs and Stratton engine that they would couple to that, and they could put it in the bed of the boat with wing nuts, and crank up the Briggs and Stratton engine like on a lawnmower, you know. But it was a big one, and so we would putt. It probably took us an hour and a half just to get down there
I bet.
from the county landing. And of course, the county landing there, my Uncle Buddy worked for the county, and he was in charge of roads and bridges, and he would take all the riprap that they had, and he literally built that with county equipment. You know,
Oh my gosh.
landing, and they would leave this boat at the landing all the time. It was different times.
Any tidbits for the people growing up in Beaufort now that you think that they should remember, kind of thinking in regards to like the heart and soul of Beaufort and what some people may miss now that you grew up with?
Yeah, the more people you know, I think it's adds a lot to life, you know.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. This
All
has
right.
been a treat.
Yes, thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here.